Let's say a drilling job comes along and you can purchase a mast attachment for pretty much a fraction of the cost of a brand new dedicated drilling rig and just mount it on the machine that you already have. Financially, it makes sense, right? But you see here, it's not just about money, it's also about reach. A complete micro drilling rig is a specialist. It's been designed from the ground up for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to drill holes with the maximum power and precision in the most efficient way possible. Why would anyone choose this? There's two compelling reasons. A mast attachment is not just a lump of steel, it's a sophisticated system. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. The selection process comes down to a few key factors that you need to have in mind, and a premium mast should come with. I'm Mike Dobrota, and this is TerraQUIP Talk. After years of providing drilling equipment solutions, I know that a project success hinges on reliable, high-quality rigs that meet your needs. So if you're ready to make smarter equipment decisions and build stronger foundations, let's get started. Hello friends, what's going on? With this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more technical here. I'll be talking about the differences between the excavator drilling mast attachments and complete micro drilling rigs. What I mean here is when it comes to micro drilling, should you use an excavator mast attachment or a complete anchoring rig? The space of micro drilling involves technologies such as soil nailing, anchoring, hollow bars, tiebacks, and micropiles. So what I'll do here, I'll describe the reasons why you should go for an excavator mast attachment and the reasons why you should choose on the other side a complete micro drilling rig. And we'll also try to answer some of the following questions. Number one, what are mast attachments? Number two, where and when you should use a mast attachment. And then we'll get a little bit into a bit more details about their requirements, about the qualities of the Marini mast attachments, because this is the ones that we represent. But first, let's talk about the main argument here, and that is, should you use an excavator mast attachment? Why should you use one? Well, the two words that come to mind. Number one is reach, and the other one is price point. So think about it like this, right? Let's say you run a mid-sized construction company. You've already got a fleet of excavators. They're the workhorse of your operation. They do all the digging, all the handling of materials, they're doing site prep. Now, that's a significant amount of capital that you've already made. Let's say a drilling job comes along and you can purchase a mast attachment for us, right, or from another drilling mast manufacturer for pretty much a fraction of the cost of a brand new dedicated drilling rig and just mount it on the machine that you already have. Financially, it makes sense. But you see here, it's not just about money, it's also about reach, because with an excavator boom and stick, which are absolutely marvelous, because you can reach up, you can reach down, underneath it, out. You can be sitting on a, say for example, on a stable roadbed and drill soil nails 10 meters up on a steep embankment. You could be positioned on a side of a trench and drill anchor points on the other side, right? That kind of articulation and flexibility is something a traditional tracked micro drilling rig can't really compete with, it can't really replicate. On the other hand, let's look at a complete micro drilling rig, which also Marini offers with their MRC line. Why would anyone choose this and why would they spend the extra money on it? Well, there's two powerful and compelling reasons. Footprint is one of them, and then capability. You see, a complete micro drilling rig is a specialist. It's been designed from the ground up for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to drill holes with the maximum power and precision in the most efficient way possible. So hear me out on this. The power pack, the hydraulics, the mast, the controls, every single component is perfectly matched and optimized for drilling. This means you often get more torque, higher percussion power, more refined controls when you drill. They're literally a powerhouse, these things, right? And then there's the footprint that we said. While an excavator is versatile, it's also a relatively larger machine. And whereas a dedicated micro drilling rig, especially the compact models, can be incredibly small. They can be designed to sneak through a standard doorway, for example, track down on a basement, into a basement, or work inside in a tunnel. In the world of urban construction and retrofitting, where space is the ultimate luxury, I'm pretty sure most of you agree that tiny footprint is a massive advantage. An excavator, even a mini one, might not be able to get into some of the jobs. So you see the dilemma here, it's a strategic choice. Do you need, let's say, a Swiss Army knife, or do you need a scalpel? That's kind of like how you look at it. Now, before we move on, I have to mention here a fascinating piece of machinery that tries to give you best of both worlds, and that is an unique drilling rig from Marini, and that's their MRC 85A and the MRC 35A. These machines have the ability to, so first of all, they're complete micro drilling rigs, but what they have special is the fact that all the hydraulics and the controls are situated on the mast, so you can remove the entire mast and put it on an excavator. Think about it like this. The entire drilling mast attachment is designed to be quickly and easily removed. You can detach it from its own crawler base and mount it directly onto the excavator, onto a separated excavator. Think about it for a second. Let's say you have a project that's 90% standard drilling in accessible areas. You can use the MRC 85A or the MRC 35A, depending on the size, taking advantage of that small footprint and optimize power. But then, let's say you get to one specific part of the job, let's say a bridge abutment, where we talked about earlier, where you need to drill micropiles from 15 meters away to reach over an obstacle. Instead of bringing in a whole new machine, you simply detach the mast from the MRC 35A or 85A, you mount it on your, let's say, 25-ton excavator, and then you suddenly have an incredible reach that you need just for that temporary job, for that specialized task. And once you're done, you just put it back onto your micro drilling machine and you just go on. You have to check out this model, guys. Honestly, it's pretty cool. Now, let's try to answer one of those first questions that we said earlier. What are mast attachments? They're basically advanced, self-contained drilling kits that are ingeniously designed and engineered to be installed on machines you probably already have. So think about it, standard crawler excavators, but you can extend it to, let's say, a spider excavator. Have you seen those incredible all-terrain machines? They literally look like something out of a sci-fi movie. And even you can install it on even telehandlers. The magic here is how they're powered, because the attachment taps directly into the excavator's own hydraulic system, and typically using the same auxiliary power takeoff that you'd use, for example, on a hydraulic breaker or a demolition shear. The excavator's powerful diesel engine and hydraulic pumps become literally the heart of the drilling operation. It supplies that lifeblood, which is the hydraulic oil under pressure that drives the mast. So we know what mast attachments are now. Let's see, when would you use one? They are perfect for small, medium, and large diameter micro drilling jobs where versatility and reach are absolutely critical. Think about challenging terrain or tight spots where a traditional drilling rig might not be practical or might not fit. So let me paint here a more detailed picture. Imagine a highway cutting. It's steep, it's 60-degree slope of fractured rock, 50 meters up high. To get a dedicated track rig up there, complete micro drilling rig, it would be a massive, time-consuming, and potentially dangerous undertaking. You might have to build a temporary access ramp. It costs time. It's just crazy. But if you have a 25-ton excavator with a mast attachment sitting at the end of it, you can comfortably sit on the wide road on the shoulder and then operate with the extended boom out, placing the mast perfectly against that slope to drill the soil nails with literally surgical precision. The job gets done faster, more safely, and more cheaply, and that's a huge win. For a business that already has an excavator, adding a mast attachment can be a much easier and cheaper way to get a drilling rig in your fleet. And that's why over the last, 24 months at TerraQUIP, we keep on growing and selling more and more of these mast attachments from Marini, because a lot more companies, they find it quite affordable, let's say, and easy to add that drilling rig that we said. Now, you know you need one, you know what is one. How do you pick the right one, right? Because even at Marini, we have, 7 or 8 different mast attachments, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. You see, the selection process comes down to a few key factors that you need to have in mind. First, you need to know your drilling requirements. What are you doing? Are you doing, let's say, down a hole hammer, or are you doing top hammer? Let's say you do hollow bars, or do you do micropiles? Because based on this, you need to choose not only the size, but also the type of drilling attachment and the configuration that it's in, whether it's with a top drifter or with a downhole hammer or with a rotary. What is a downhole hammer? A downhole hammer it's shortened for DTHH, and it's essentially a pneumatic piston that rides down the hole right behind the drill, and it strikes it with incredible force and frequency. This type of drilling is perfect for medium to very hard rock formations. It's powerful, but it requires a significant amount of air, compressed air. So you need to have a compressor next to you. Let's say, for example, on the other side that you have a job that's suited for drifter, also known as top hammer. You see, with a drifter, the hammering action happens at the top of the drill string, inside the hydraulic motor on the mast itself. And Marini are known for building not only their mast attachment, their complete micro drilling rigs, but sometimes we actually sell individual drifters because they're very efficient, number one, they're affordable, and they're built pretty much 95% in-house by Marini themselves. Not only that, but Marini offers a very good range of drifters. So we offer the fully pneumatic ones, for example, the MA100, that the rotation and the percussion happens with the help of compressed air. Then we've got the hybrid ones, which are the MA100 SID. The pneumatic one was 3R. The hybrid one is SID, which means basically the rotation happens with the help of hydraulic oil, but the percussion happens using air, compressed air. Now, the third one is the fully hydraulic one. Let's say, for example, the MA500 SID, which is a fully hydraulic drifter, rotation, everything happens with the help of oil. Now, drifters are generally faster in softer rock and overburden, and they are the tool of choice for installation of, as I said, hollow bars, which are often used for soil nailing and rock anchoring. Knowing whether you need rotary, downhole hammer, or drifter percussion is the first fork in the road and will dictate the type of rotary head, as I said, and the hydraulic power that you need from the mast. Next, you have to answer what are the physical parameters of the job. What I mean by that is simple. Diameter and the depth that you need to achieve. And these numbers will strictly and directly influence the size of your mast attachment, right? So let's say, for example, you're drilling a 100 millimeter diameter hole down to 10 meters deep. That's a world away from, let's say, drilling 250 millimeters diameter micropile to 20 meters depth, right? So double the depth. The latter, of course, requires vastly more torque, rotation, casing, maybe more feed force to push it down, and a much more robust mast with a lot more power, of course, capable of handling all those stresses. And finally, arguably the most important variable of all is what are the ground conditions. You must get your hands on the geotechnical reports, and most of the jobs out there, I know they have the geotechnical report, and that report is basically their Bible. Because is it soft clay? Is it sand and gravel? Is it maybe solid granite? The performance numbers that we have on our shiny brochures are typically just based on the ideal or average conditions, right? And I have to say this here. In terms of catalogs, Marini are very conservative when it comes to their values, and we never really had a situation where a client came back to say, well, it says on the catalog I can achieve this, but I can't. Not even once in 4 years that we worked together. So that tells me they're pretty conservative when it comes to their numbers and their values. Now, drilling into hard abrasive, hard rock formations will be much slower and will require much power than drilling into, let's say, stiff clay. And if you choose a mast that's undersized for the actual ground conditions on your site, it's not going to be good. You'll definitely fail. It's as simple as that. The job simply can't be performed. Your project can't be completed correctly. And a great way to start the selection process is to look at what you're currently maybe drilling, or maybe you have a subcontractor that's already drilling for you. That's a good place to start to know what sort of mast attachment you want for what sort of jobs. Because let's say, for example, you have a project that has 76 millimeters hollow bars that need to be drilled down to 12 meters. You can take that to us. You can bring us those values. We'll take it to Marini and we'll say, look, this is my bread and butter work. This is what the client needs to drill. what would be the right model. And this makes it pretty much the easiest way, to identify what sort of mast attachment you need. And Marini have been really good in the past in helping us and to provide that solution to the client, and make sure you're making an efficient and a future-proof investment as well. Just quickly, need reliable drilling equipment for your next project? At TerraQUIP Drilling Equipment, we offer tailored solutions with top-tier support to meet your project needs. Contact us using the links in the show notes to find the perfect equipment for your drilling project. Now back to the episode. One of the most popular masts that we have in the Marini range, I'd say, is the MRA 150. Now, a little side note here, for those familiar with our lineup, the Marini MRA 150, which was in the past 120, has recently been upgraded. And why? Because it's pretty much the same weight as the 120, but the capabilities are of the 150. So that's why we just call it 150. Now, keep in mind that we did sell a variety of mast attachments, starting from really light ones, from 650, 700 kilos, which is the MRA 80, for example, all the way up to the biggest one that we sold is the MRA 300. But the Marini range goes higher than that as well. They manufacture bigger and stronger mast attachments than that too. So to give you an example of the achievements and the capabilities of the MRA 150, let's say you have to drill 152 mil diameter for some underpinning work down to a depth of 15 meters. That application is great for the MRA 150. Or let's say you have to drill self-drilling hollow bars, let's say the T40s down to about, 10, 12 meters for a large tieback wall. In that case, you would choose the MRA 150 mast, but you'd have to have it fitted with a powerful hydraulic drifter like the MA 500 ID, like I was saying earlier. The mast itself is the same, but the drilling head is slightly different, tailored to specific applications. And I'm sure I don't need to mention this to the seasoned pros listening out there, but it bears repeating. All of these numbers, the diameters, the depths, are strictly variable. And they're strictly dependent on the ground conditions and the typical project and the specific project that you have. So never take the spec sheet that we talk here or we send you as a gospel. If a mast attachment seems like the choice for you, another question that you want to answer here is how to correctly identify the excavator for your mast, right? A very general rule of thumb is to choose an attachment that's approximately 12 to 15% of the weight of the excavator. So let's just say you have a mast attachment that weighs a ton, 1,000 kilos. The excavator should be approximately 12 to 15 tons, right? But of course, this is a very, very simplistic view, and the precise way, if you want to look at it, to identify the excavator is to consider its boom lift capability at its lowest point. What do I mean by this? You have to look what's the lifting capacity of that excavator at the lowest point, and the lowest point is boom fully out at 90 degrees, so the excavator slewed at 90 degrees on its side, with the boom about 1.5 meters above ground. So let's say, again, our mast attachment is, let's say, 1,000 kilos. At the lowest point there, the excavator needs to be capable of lifting about 1,200 kilos, so 1.2, 1.1 kilograms. And why this? Well, why do we have this rule? It's simple. It's all about stability, right? Because an excavator is designed to be balanced with its own cutter weight, the boom, the back, the geometry of the tracks are all calculated to have a stable design, right? When digging. But if you hang a multi-ton attachment at the end of the boom, you're modifying basically that equation. But you see, it's not only about size when it comes to drilling mast attachment, it's also about hydraulic oil flow and pressure, especially when it comes to fitting your mast for different technologies, say, for example, with a drifter. So if we take a concrete example, the Marini MRA 500, which is quite a big mast attachment, if we fit it with a HB45 drifter, that mast requires an oil flow of 260 liters per minute at about 250 bar pressure. So you'll need an excavator with an oil delivery of approximately 10% higher than those 260 liters per minute. Why the 10% buffer? Simply because the hydraulic system and any physical system, they have losses, right? You have all of that energy that gets losses through the friction when the oil travels through meters and meters of hoses, right? And you also lose a little bit at every coupling and valve and things like that. The temperature of the oil can also impact a little bit and affect the performance of the mast attachment, and you get those inevitable losses. Now, let's talk a little bit more about oil supply here, right? Because this is quite interesting and it's super important. The required oil flow and pressure vary between different mast attachments, right? Logically. Marini recommends having the 10% more oil flow, and this margin accounts for performance losses in the hydraulic circuit, right? It's also critical that the return line is properly cooled down and doesn't have high back pressure, as this can reduce and even cause damage to your mast attachment. And it's crucial to never ever invert the delivery line with the return line, because doing so will definitely damage the distributors. And we had this situation before where we had to redo the caps on the hydraulic distributor, but that's fine. We're prepared with it. We've been through it. We have experience with that. Now, we spoke about the requirements of the excavator. Now let's talk about what physical connections do we have between the mast attachment and the excavator, right? Well, there's about 5, I think. Yeah, 5 of them. Number 1, we have oil delivery. The flow rate of the excavator is normally listed at a pressure of 0 bar. So the performance curve of the hydraulic pump is usually such that the oil flow decreases as the pressure increases, right? It's just simple mechanics, right? If you look at the Marini documentation, they always recommend using a flow meter to double check the actual flow rate of the excavator, even though the manual says something, okay? Normally you can pretty much trust the manuals, but it's just a good method to double check. Now, number 2, the oil return. As we said earlier, the oil line must be cooled down by means of a heat exchanger on the base machine, and if the excavator doesn't have one, you may require an additional one. Now, majority of the excavators these days, I don't think there's one that comes without a back pressure, without a return line being cooled down. And this back pressure, measured at the end of the stick or the boom with cold oil, should be at approximately 20 to 40 degrees Celsius at a maximum of 12 bar. Why? Because back pressure that's too high will reduce the equipment performance and may cause damage to the mast hydraulic control valves or distributor. Okay, number 3, we have the case drain. And case drain line is usually used to drain the oil from the motors and the hydraulic distributors. And a connection with the direct discharge to the self-propelled hydraulic oil tank is required. And number 4, we spoke about oil. Now we have to have electricity as well. We have to have power. And that's usually 24 volts, depending on the model of the mast. In general, it's 24. I think in some exceptions, they're 12 volts as well, right? But it's literally just a connection, a power plug supply, a power supply that goes on the side of the excavator. And last, we have to have check valves on the boom cylinders of the excavators. Again, majority of the excavators, they have this. And what's the purpose of the check valve is they need to completely block the leakage of oil present in the positioning system, right? In the positioning cylinders, right? Thus keeping the arms completely stationary during that drilling. You need those arms of the arms of the excavator and the boom, the stick fully still, right? Completely still, to account for all the forces that occur during drilling, such as crowd force or rotation. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is super important. The absence of this valve could damage the mast positioning system, right? And even further damage your excavator. Now, let's peel back a bit the cover and look at some of the components and design philosophies that separate a top-tier product manufacturer like Marini from the rest of the pack. And keep in mind here, a mast attachment is not just a lump of steel. It's a sophisticated system. And a premium mast should come with quick connection hydraulic hoses, which make the setup breakdown a lot faster and easier. You got to have hydraulic distributors, the main valves mounted directly on the mast itself, which makes the system more responsive and efficient by shortening the distance of oil that the oil has to travel, right? The control system is another huge differentiator here. Many modern masts use a PLC system, right? Which stands for Programmable Logic Controller, which is a rugged-sized industrial computer that manages all the functions and the safety of the attachment. This is often paired with a highly functional radio remote control, and we're not just talking about a on-off joystick here. These are advanced remotes with a lot of functions, potentiometers and fine-tuning dials, right? This allows the operators to stand at a safe distance with a perfect view of the hole and make micro adjustments to things like rotation, like feed pressure, percussion power, just literally on the fly, right? The ability to adapt instantly to changing ground conditions is what separates a good operator from a great one. And the tool is the one that allows him this finesse. Now, the physical construction matters too. And if you look at the Marini, they're built with high strength steel, none of that aluminum crap, aluminum makes it light, but also makes it not very reliable, right? Marini masts are full steel build with robust rollers and sliding pads for the rotary carriage. They have a sturdy design, and it's just something like, it looks like it can handle a lot of vibration and a lot of, let's say, torque that you have from the rotary heads. And one of the most valuable design features that you can find is also with Marini, the sectional and modular mast. And why is this a game changer? Because it gives you the ability to, if you have, for example, let's say a section where you need to drill 9-meter anchors, if you have a 3.5 meter mast stroke, you can use 3-meter rods in 3 pieces. And a lot of times we have the carousel as well. For example, the MRA 150 can come with a carousel with 3 rods in the carousel and 1 rod in the rotary. So that pretty much gives you the ability straight away to drill 12 meters depth without touching the rods, without physically touching the rods. And then, of course, it's for transport. If you require, let's say, a mast that's more compact, you can reduce its size as well, depending on how you order your mast. So Marini has this flexibility, and that's why it's such a great tailor-made product. And then there's the kinematic system, right? The joints, the swivels that let you position the mast. We call them the turntable, right? The double turntable. So it's not just one, it's 2 of them. One of them gives you the ability to rotate at about 90 degrees, right? Left and right. And another one to rotate at 185 degrees. This gives you such an incredible range of motion, like having an extra wrist and an extra elbow, right? It allows you to drill at almost any conceivable angle, vertical, horizontal, upside down, often without having to reposition the entire excavator. It's all about giving the operator the ability to put holes exactly where it needs to with a minimum fuss. And then, of course, we have little details like integrated air and flushing gates, which makes switching between different flushing mediums easy, all that add up to a machine that's easier and more efficient to use. Now, finally, let's talk about the advantages that come from Marini itself. Why should you go with a specialist like Marini that produces and manufactures a premium product? Well, you're buying a complete ecosystem. You get access to the most complete line of attachments on the market, meaning you can find the perfect fit for your application. You get almost a plug-and-play design. Seriously, guys, very simple design to install. And you're already getting like a high-tech quality components throughout. You get a wide range of accessories for every conceivable drilling application. And perhaps the most importantly, you get a product that is designed, manufactured, and assembled pretty much entirely by Marini. There are no external companies involved in this core process. The people who design the gearboxes, for example, are in the same building as the people who weld the mast and the technicians who write the PLC code. That deep integration leads to exceptional reliability and a system where every part works in harmony. And if something does go wrong, please believe me, out of all the suppliers that I've worked with, Marini is absolutely exceptional when it comes to support. They are super prompt. We actually have a WhatsApp group that we communicate through, and we just give them their, the pictures of something that happened, the part that we need, or advice, and they literally we receive a message within the next hour at worst. The key takeaway from today is this, guys. A mast attachment is not a compromise. It's a strategic choice, but to make it successful, you have to do your homework. You have to respect the physics of weight and balance. You have to understand and match the hydraulic requirements, and you have to follow the pre-flight checklist every time you do it, right? When you do that, you transform your humble excavator into a precision drilling powerhouse ready to take on the most challenging ground conditions on any site. Be sure to subscribe whenever you get the podcast so you don't miss our next episode, when we'll be talking with David Tavanian from Marvel Piling. Yes, we're having more and more guests, as I said, from different corners of the industry. Until then, please remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning. See ya. Thanks for tuning in to TerraQUIP Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support us is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find out more from me on all social media platforms. The links are below. Until then, remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning.